Hi everyone, Carter, Chris, and I are here at the Florida Squeeze. Before we get to today's video, I want to say that we've got some great Florida history podcasts coming up. So check out our Florida history podcast stream on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to have a podcast out this week. Actually, it's about to come out on Leroy Collins. And several more on Collins, Claude Kirk, Ruben Askew in the next few weeks. We're doing a series on Florida governors. We just got done with Dan McCarty and Fuller Warren. Yes, we skipped Charlie Johns for good reason. We got exit polls from Florida. First time I think we're really looking at this. We've seen the national exit polls. In Florida, about 3,300 respondents, so that's a pretty good sample. Harris lost every age group, except for 18 to 29-year-olds. Lost every single age group, and that's pretty pathetic. And even in that 18 to 29-year-old age group, she only won 53-43. Family's financial situation today, this is very telling. Better than 4 years ago, which was 18% of the population in Florida. That's it, 18%. Harris 86, Trump 14. Worse than 4 years ago, this would include me. Harris 15, Trump 82%. I didn't vote for Trump, full disclosure, but I'm in the 18% in that group that didn't vote for him. About the same, 25%. Harris 71, Trump 26. Party ID. Okay, now this is interesting because I poo-pooed Republicans for Harris. Then I kind of did an about-face after a lot of pressure. Harris did get 7% of the Republican vote in Florida, which is higher than she got nationally. I think it was 4 or 5% nationally. I have to look. But she did get a higher sliver, and we talked about all the prominent Florida Republicans who had endorsed her, starting with former State Senator Paula Dockery and former Comptroller Bob Milligan, Max Stepanovich, who was at one time the Republican campaign maestro in this state, connected to Bob Martinez and Jeb Bush, former governors of ours. But Harris got beat among independent voters, and this is really significant because, as I have pointed out time and again, generally the way Florida Democrats kept races close because Republicans have always had a turnout advantage, even though at one time, even though until a few years ago there were more registered Democrats in the state, Republicans would turn out at a much higher rate, was because the Democrats would perennially win the NPA vote, NPA and independent vote between 52 and 55%. In fact, Biden, while losing the state 4 years ago, got between 52 and 53% of the independent vote. This time, Harris 44, Trump 52. That's Florida right there. So that's about an 8.5 point drop, and there was about a 9.5 point drop statewide. So most of it was among independents, really bad, and that's I think something we saw throughout the country. 53% of moderates voted for Harris in the state. That's 44% of the electorate. But here is, I think, another telling piece. We talk about race, and Harris got 82% of the black vote. She got 37% of the white vote, which isn't good enough, but it's not that far off where you need to go. I've always said Democrats in Florida need to get 39 or 40% of the white vote to win statewide. So it wasn't that bad. Actually, it wasn't that much. It was the same as Hillary Clinton got. Hillary Clinton got 37% of the white vote in the state, and she lost the state because she won about 60 plus percent of the Latino vote in Florida. Here is what Harris did among Latinos in Florida. She got trashed, 59-40 among Latino votes. And this is not just Miami-Dade County. Significantly, Osceola County and the Puerto Ricans, who, of course, we were told because of the comedian's joke at Madison Square Garden, watch the Orlando area, watch Osceola County. There's going to be a huge swing for Harris, and that's why Florida's back in play. And at the same time, we were told Harris would win Pennsylvania because of the comedian and all the Puerto Ricans in Philly. It didn't materialize in either place. In fact, I think they voted for Trump in both places. Gender, 54% of the electorate in Florida was female. And Harris lost the female vote, 51-48. Not good. Not good for her. Again, this is another thing I've stressed. It's the excerpt stupid, right? That's my saying about Florida. Urban vote was 49-49. That's actually not good enough. But this is even more telling. Suburban, which includes the exurbs in Florida, 45% of the state's electorate. Urban is 47%. 38% for Harris, 60% for Trump. Got trounced in what are built up residential, heavily populated areas outside of the big cities. Got killed the way Democrats used to get killed around the country in the suburbs. So that's why Florida is not in play for the foreseeable future, among other reasons, unless that turns around. Rural areas were only 9% of the electorate in Florida, 61-34 Trump. That's actually, that 34% for Harris is better than in many other parts of the country. Now, here is the absolute kicker. Absolute kicker. Abortion should be legal or illegal. 32% said illegal. They want 92% for Trump. You figure that. Those who said legal, which was 64%, that doesn't necessarily jive with the ballot initiative, but you know a lot of them get fooled by the language or got tricked by the ads. 64%, and they voted 36% for Donald Trump. I mean, that is mind-blowing. And that's, again, a real communications error by the Democrats, and also an absolute inability of the Democratic Party to once again understand that people who vote for ballot initiatives that are progressive don't necessarily vote for Democratic candidates. That's been going on for 22 years in the state. I talked about it in a previous video. Starting in 2002, we had a consistent pattern of liberal ballot initiatives being placed on the ballot, then passing the same day as Republican elected officials who campaigned against those ballot initiatives getting elected. So that's what happened. Again, gender by race. Okay, let's look at this. This is interesting. White men, 32% for Harris. They were 27% of the electorate. White women, only 41% for Harris in this state. 32% of the electorate. Black men, 5% of the electorate, 75% for Harris, 21% for Trump. We thought that might happen. Black women, 7% of the electorate. 88% for Harris, 11% for Trump. Latino men. Now, this is really bad. 12% of the electorate in the state. 35% for Harris, 64% for Trump. Latino women, 12% of the electorate in the state. Only 46% for Harris, 52% for Trump. So really, really bad. College graduates were 36% of the electorate in this state. And Harris even lost to college graduates. 46-52, no college degree. The other 64% of the electorate, 57-41 Trump, which is actually not as bad as some other states I've looked at. So that's kind of interesting. White voters with a college degree, Harris lost by 12 points. Voters of color with a college degree, and voters of color with no college degree, she won the majority by 6 points in both, 52-46. So we had in the electorate, the composition of the electorate in Florida was 60% white, 40% various minority groups. So, you know, the state's getting more and more, the state's getting less and less white and more Republican at the same time. That's another thing that tells you the failure of identity politics. Prefer U.S. Senate control. Yeah, this is obvious. 41% wanted the Democrats. 94% of them voted for Harris, 4% for Trump. 56% wanted Republicans, 3% for Harris, 94% for Trump. Okay, so here we go. Race. I was wrong. I said 40% of the electorate was voters of color. Sorry, it was 41%. White voters, 61-37 Trump. We already went through that number. That's 59% of the electorate. Voters of color were 41% of the electorate, 51-47 for Harris. Let's look and see if we have anything about, okay, this is good. Cuban descent. 6% of the electorate in Florida. The Cuban vote was won by Barack Obama in 2012 and by Hillary Clinton in 2016. Donald Trump got 72% of the Cuban American vote. That's 6% of the electorate statewide. I mean, that's as bad as the evangelical vote for the Democrats. Puerto Rican descent, Harris 51, Trump 45. Again, we thought Osceola County, or not we, a lot of people said Osceola County and Philadelphia County in Pennsylvania, they were going to run up these huge margins because of the Puerto Rican vote. Didn't happen. She barely won the Puerto Rican vote. 2020 presidential vote. Those who voted for Biden in 2020, 91% for Harris, 7% for Trump, 2% for others. That's really not good. Approval rating of Biden was in the state is 33%. Tough to win with that. Of the 65% that disapproved of Biden, it was 33 approved, 65 disapproved. 14% of them voted for Harris. 83% of them voted for Biden. Confident your state's elections are fair and accurate, which is, I think a valid concern in Florida. It's not a valid concern in other states, in my opinion. I do think, and we're going to talk about this later in the week, why DeSantis to me is a lot more manipulative of things than Trump is, and how Trump is accused of being that way by the Democrats, but I actually think DeSantis is a far greater example of an autocrat. Those who are very confident, this is really kind of weird to me because I'm talking about DeSantis. Those who are not very confident in the states' elections being fair and accurate were 13% of the electorate. They voted 61-34 for Trump. Now, here's another one. Democracy in the United States is somewhat threatened. 33% of the electorate. Given the appeals of the Harris campaign, given the rhetoric of Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, who both endorsed cross-party lines to endorse Kamala Harris, given the rhetoric of our friends at the Bulwark, and the Never Trump Republicans, you would think that 33% that says democracy in the United States is somewhat threatened would vote for Harris. No, it was 55-43 for Trump. Even more alarming, 39% said democracy in the United States is very threatened, and they went 54-42 for Trump. So the majority of Floridians said democracy is threatened, okay? Which is right to the Democrats' messaging. And Trump won that group by double digits, and it was the majority of the state. Shocking, absolutely shocking. And then let's see what else is here. Most important issue, if it was abortion, which was 11% of the electorate, Harris won 79-21. Still, the 21 stands out. Economy is 37%. Trump 78, Harris 21. Immigration 15%, that figures Trump 87-13. Let's see what else is here. This is an important one here in Florida. Federal hurricane aid going to people who need it. Now, this comes at a time when the state of Florida itself has dropped the ball on assistance in the Tampa Bay area after both Helene and Milton, particularly after Helene. Okay, and the governor was sending aid to North Carolina from this state and sending personnel to North Carolina from this state when there were people in Florida in peril, right? But that was all grandstanding. But it seems to have worked because those who said yes, 67% for Harris, 31% for Trump. Those who said no, which would include me, well, actually may not include me because I'm concerned about state and local authorities not doing their jobs during and after tropical weather. 20% for Harris, 76% for Trump. And again, this is a red herring to me. And that's our exit poll. One other note, they don't have Jewish voters on here. There was a lot of talk that there would be bleed in the Jewish vote in Florida. We don't have that on here, but we do have the exit polls nationally show that between 78 and 80% of the Jewish vote nationally voted for Harris. So there was really no bleed there nationally. So once again, thank you for joining us on this. And these exit poll results were very interesting.